introductions.
Yeah, so naturally, I'm Dr. Gene. Everybody calls me Dr. Gene, state advisor. This is my 8th year. I love what I'm doing. Thank you for supporting me. There's been no complaints that have gotten to the, to the higher up saying, get rid of them. But so for the time being, I hope I'm satisfying your needs. I remember when I first took this job over, I was just so thrilled. It was all about me, and I sent the survey out and everybody was very kind to say, hey, you got to start talking about helping us. And so I changed over because I didn't know what it was all about. And ever since then, I've loved what I'm doing. We're always available. Let me give you my cell phone, please. 973-748-7931. That's my cell. You can call me anytime, but do call me before I fall asleep in the morning. I mean, in the evening. But you can call me anytime. You can call Jessica. Now we have a great team. I want to introduce my team because we have built this team. Jessica, you all know Jessica. She's the heart of the program. I even wrote a poem. She's the heart of the Hosa program. I won't read it to you right now, but Jessica's there and she's tremendous. She has that master's in child psychology, which comes in very handy when she has to deal with the state advisor. Next up, we have Amy Berkmeyer, who's the nurse and who's in charge of all our competitive events. My God, when I first took over, she was my hostess spouse, and she has remained faithful and true because she loves kids. And that's what we're all about here. We all love kids, and it's wonderful. And we have a job, we have a career. So that's Amy Berkmeyer. She'll be giving a report on competitive events. Then we have, and there's no particular order as I see them on the screen. Dr. Carolyn Breen joined 2 years ago. And there she is waving. And she's the former director of the Rutgers Allied Health Program, the dental assisting and dental hygiene program. I've known Carolyn for 30 years. Besides my wife, she's the closest person to me in education for all these years. And she has her PhD. It's amazing what structure and organization she has brought to the program. And she'll be reporting on the OSHA Safety Awareness Program, which is very close to my heart. Simply because, bottom line, when we don't want to put children out to a job without them being aware of where the hazards are. Okay, and there's plenty of hazards, especially after this COVID-19. So we don't want to put any student in well, that was good timing. So anyway, so we don't want to put children in any position that they are not aware of the dangers, the hazards. Okay, then we have Lucille. Are you here? I don't see the picture. Oh yes, Lucille. Now, by the way, Lucille Jones is my chairman. I call her the chairman of the board. She's like Frank Sinatra. She has made more inroads with all the people in education than I could have ever imagined. She's a former principal. She has tremendous contacts and knows how secondary education works and runs on an administrative level. That is extremely important because we are working within secondary education. Okay, I'm mentioning all these people. You can certainly call them if you have specific problems. Next, we have Shawnee Chaudhary, my granddaughter. Where is she? She there?
I'm a silent observer today.
You what?
I'm a silent observer today.
She's that critical thinker in the background. Believe me, I always think I'm ahead of her, but for some reason, she always gets a little bit, she's one step ahead of me, which is what she's been in Hosa as longer than me. She actually is the, kind of like a miniature state advisor in the works. And just one thing about Shawnee, she just was married, and some of us were at the wedding. God bless her. She has a wonderful husband. We wish them well in their life. But she has been able to manage our state officers to the point where we have been successful in getting state officers at the international level. Again, this year, we had 2. And it's because of the coaching and the discipline that she puts these prospective international candidates through, what she puts them through. The training is unbelievable. And that's why we're so successful. So that's the immediate inner circle. Who did I forget? No one.
You forgot Dev.
Oh, Dev Patel. He's a former president of our state council, former international president, and he was at the wedding. He's at Shawnee's wedding. When I saw him, he looked like he was dressed so beautifully. I thought, my God, he's our Indian prince. He's like unbelievable and so respectful. We sat at the table, all of us together. We were a family. It was wonderful. Amy was there. Lucille was there. Even Shawnee, Jessica was there. Even we had an international representative come from international. So this is wonderful that we have this team. Now, what can this team do for you, the state advisor? That's the focus of this meeting. But I have to let you know the skill sets of all these people involved. So I just returned from the state advisors meeting in Alexandria, Virginia, the annual meeting. It was a great meeting, first meeting in 2 years. And I have to tell you, International has stayed with updating the program, this Hosa program, because it is growing. And the big takeaway from I'm going to jump around here a little bit, but let me start my report with the big takeaway is that International now is requiring us to follow a standards of excellence program. We all know that there are standards. So International has identified 47, Jessica, that's right, 47?
International is 65 events at least.
60, no, not events, standards of excellence.
Oh, standards, at least, yes, about 45 standards.
45 to 47 standards. These standards are spelled out, and you'll see where you fit in here. These standards are spelled out in a document of 28 pages. I'm so glad that we have that, because what it's going to do is force us to document our program so that we know what level that we are functioning at. And there's 3 levels: bronze, silver, gold, just like the Olympics. Okay. State advisors come in, whatever you're doing, continue to do what you're doing, because we can then report the success of your program at the local level, because that's where it's all at, the local level. So if you're still working on these programs, or if you want to increase certificate programs on the chapter level, please do so, because that adds to our standards of excellence when we report not only to the State Department of Education, but also now to International. Bottom line is, if we have high standards, then when International approaches the federal government to continue the Perkins funding, which is what funds this program administratively, there are 2 financial accounts. One is the student account. That's the student monies that are derived from income from events and dues. And then there's the State Department of Education, which funds this team so that it can administer to your needs, whatever they are. So we want to continue that Perkins funding. So are there any questions up to that now? All right, good. If you think of a question, that's fine. We know that this year is a continuation of the international theme, which is the service project, which is Be the Match. Now, last year, there was a t-shirt competition, and Matt Hunzak submitted a t-shirt, and it was on the front of the t-shirt was a heart like this. And then he had in the middle of it, Be the Match. And I thought that was a sure winner. Well, I found out it came 5th. It came out 5th. The person who was representing Be the Match, she loved Matt's submission, but we did take a 5th place for the district, which I think is very nice. And so we're continuing that program again this year. It'll sunset at the International Convention in June of 2022, and I'll speak about that convention later on. You have plenty of time to get organized and to raise enough money. There are fundraisers that will help you with to go to that convention, and it will be in Nashville. So that's the report. So we're continuing that service project. If you need any information, I have taken all my information from Sam, all the resources that they gave me, I've given them to Jessica. She can then disseminate those to you on an individual basis for whatever you need. All right. Big change this year. Family medicine physician is a new event. Hallelujah, because it's all about primary care. We all know that we go to our primary care physicians first, and they are aptly supported by nursing, which is the biggest career in the country. Nursing still outdoes everybody else after physicians. So this is a new competitive event this year. Amy will speak on it. However, we're going to spend this next year, chapter advisors, making a link and a connection with the Family Medicine Physician Association in New Jersey. I have a name of a person who's in charge. I have yet to contact him. I will. We want that person to serve on our industry advisory committee. We want that person to do workshops. We want that person to be a judge and to make any suggestions that they think is appropriate for their field, that they need career people to support them. Now, this is having like a direct line right into the association. This is wonderful. I'm looking forward to that. We're thinking of maybe starting a competitive event the following year, probably at the post-secondary level, which would be easier to manage, and then having it trickle down into secondary education. However, you'll be kept aware of all this developments on this new competitive event in career field, which is very important. Again, we don't go to specialists, we go directly to our primary care physician, and then we get referred. We've all gone through that for our health issues. So family medicine, wonderful. The person who spoke on family medicine, she was terrific. I have her name if you need it. We even had dinner together, very nice. All the people at International are just extremely nice people. I just, every time I call up, they're so helpful. So you can call them direct or you can call us. There's plenty of resources available. New advisors, if there are new advisors on this call, International Hosa has established a new advisor training program. Excuse me. That training program is run by a state advisor from Delaware. She's a nurse, and she's created a great program. She's been in Hosa a long time. So it's the state advisor from Delaware. Now, if you ever want to know where some of the people are, if you go to the international website and you go to hosa.org, and then under the tab that says About Hosa, you click on that tab and you'll see chartered associations. You click on that, and then everybody who's a state advisor is listed there. So you have a direct email and phone number to that woman. Her name is Peg Enslin. I think she's a former president of our international chartered association, our 501c3, our corporation. She's very good. Ever since I've been in there, she's always attending. She'll help anybody. So if you want to get training, there are classes coming up. She's the person to contact, and she always when she talks, she's always saying, "I'm from Delaware, the first state," and I always say, "Yeah, and I'm from the Garden State." So we always have fun there. She's very good, helpful. The training is good. If she did it, she knows what she's doing. So it's available. There are certain classes starting at different times. I would start out at the bronze level, new advisors. Okay. So if you're taking notes, just remember to contact the Delaware State Advisor for that training. Okay. Any questions on that? By the way, on the family physicians, the big stat that I was given was that approximately 44,000 new family physicians are now needed right now. right now in this new system that's developing in America, I've touched on it before, I'll touch on it again, because we try to provide as much information for those career areas. I will also mention that healthcare management is coming on strong. And my ears perked up because one of our team members, Shawnee, that's what she's involved in. Yes, Shawnee, healthcare management of some sort, right?
Yeah, in a sense.
In a sense, right.
My degree was health management, basically.
There you go. So we have that covered. There's going to be 60,000 of these healthcare management people needed. Well, why? Because we're switching over to a new system in this country. We're not going to be treating people in silos or in little individual houses and offices. It's all about group practice, managed care, and treating more people. The triple aim, I'll repeat it. Treat more people, improve quality, lower costs. How can we do that? We can't do that unless we have a workforce, future health professionals. So this information should be shared with your students. And at the end of this, I'm going to go through the Barbara James program, because in that program, there's something significant that talks to students about a career. Every student can go and work. There's so many jobs available. So the Barbara James recognizes people who do volunteer work. And how else are you going to learn what is really right for you as a student until you try it out? Okay. I will say, and I'm going to end up with the family physician competitive event, was developed by a former Hosa student from South Dakota. How about that? We now have students who are out there in the field, and look what this student did. They developed a family physician. Isn't that wonderful? Competitive events. Now, I'm not sure if everyone is available, is aware that on the Hosa website, there are Hosa videos that are available, specific workshops. And you would go to the appropriate it's under the competitive events tab. You'll see resources. Start surfing that hosa.org. There's so much information on there, and it's available for you, the classroom instructor or the supervisor, to help teachers or yourself to help these students see what's available in this field. We always pride ourselves on that. We have 46 events that we do at our conferences, state conference. International has over 60 now. We couldn't do 60. We just don't have the manpower. But there is a competitive event for pretty close to every student's interest. And once you find that interest of that student and you can feed it, you got a better student, I would think. I know in my case, when I went through, I wasn't too interested in what I was seeing, but the choices were limited when I was back in 1958 and I graduated high school, in 1962 when I graduated college. But today, the choices are unlimited. So find out what your interest is, your student's interest, and just try and steer them in the right direction, especially in Hosa. Mental health. That there was a presentation given by the state advisor from California, Cindy Beck, and I sat and I had lunch with her. She has taken a special interest in this mental health issue. We still have students committing suicide throughout the country. So again, if you would contact her, Cindy Beck, State Advisor, California, and just talk with her and see what she's doing. And then you can see whether that would be appropriate for your school and your curriculum. But I have her number. I'll give it to you now. Jessica, please put this in the chat. 916-319-0470. Cindy Beck, California State Advisor. Every year we go to SAM, State Advisors Meeting. We're there with the students. This year we had 8 of our 9 officers there. Right, Jessica?
We had all 8. We only have 8 at the moment.
Sorry, we
Yep.
have 8. Well, I always do a quick fact check because it makes me more accountable. And okay, so we had all our officers there, which is wonderful, advisors, and we were able to pay because our fund, our student fund is in financial, it's in the it's in the black, it's in the positive. We were able to send all these state advisors and chapter and chaperones. Until we instituted this policy, some of the officers, it was hard to get people to go to the Washington Leadership Academy. But we had 8 people there. I was at the luncheon. We had a man speak. The keynote speaker was terrific. I even contacted him afterwards because I had some questions. But it's just a wonderful resource. This is a man out in industry who they brought in, and he was speaking his keynote speech, the title. Let's see, what was his keynote speech? He was talking about health equity, a big thing in healthcare today, equity. And that ties into the triple aim that I mentioned to you, because we are training our future students for this new healthcare system. So he was very good. His name was Hines. And also at this luncheon, they were talking about the new theme for this year. Not the service project, the theme, which is shatter your expectations. Shatter your expectations. That's the new theme for 2021-22. And it was a great presentation made by the students at that meeting. Do we have a student here today? Is our president here, Jess?
No, Sid couldn't make it, but he sent a report that I will share later on.
You will share. Okay, let me round this up here. Yeah, the keynote speaker was Nahanta Kynes, and he spoke about health equity. No matter where I go today in my own professional dental organization, everywhere you go, it's all about healthcare equity, inclusion, diversity, and I'm proud to say we in Jersey have a 70% diversity rate. International Hosa has 50%, so we exceed that. So we're certainly including everybody, and there's a lot of things for everybody as far as interest goes. So going on to another subject now, I saw a new product called Body Interact that was presented to us. It was I was there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning, and we had a very busy schedule. Wasn't much time to socialize, only in between talks, but we went out to dinner at night as well. International really treats us to a great time, but it's a lot of work and a lot of interesting things. So I met a lot of people, and I'm trying to just share that with you. Body Interact is a new product. Basically, what it is a sim lab online. So the way it works is a scenario, just like in our competitive events, is proposed. And then the students have to make a diagnosis as to what disease this particular patient has. And so naturally, I raised my hand. I said, do you have any of the scenarios for dental? And she says, oh yeah, we do have those. We have 3 of those. So I have to look into that, but it's called Body Interact. Please Google it, write it down, take a note, make a note of it, Body Interact, and see what it's like. I'm sure there's a cost involved, but because we can't send every student to a job site for a lot of reasons, they can still participate in this as a separate classroom project or a homework assignment, depending upon the cost of the Body Interact program. It's also new. I just got back. We haven't had a chance to look at everything because the program that the resources that they shared with us are many. So make a note of it, Body Interact. I did talk about the new Hosa program for training for the new advisors. Another thing that has come up, which is wonderful, the first aid. You've all heard about Stop the Bleed and first aid certificate course that Red Cross gives. One of our state officers reached out to the Red Cross to get them to become a partner with us on our industry advisory committee. And I think that's great. We also, and the reason is because at the conference in Alexandria, a physician presented this new program that the Red Cross has that he's working with called FAST, F-A-S-T, First Aid for Severe Trauma. And I looked back, our current safety awareness curriculum doesn't include anything about stop the bleed or severe trauma. So we're going to be looking at that. And I'm glad the Red Cross will be coming on as a partner, because hopefully we can get them to do a workshop so that your students are kept abreast of the latest in first aid. And there's a certificate involved with it. I happened to research it. It's a 139-minute program that the students can take online, I believe. I'm not sure about that. But certainly, if you're already running first aid with the Red Cross, this is something that you want to ask to see if your certificate program has that FAST. Make a note of it, okay? I did speak about the international standards, excellence, which is a wonderful thing for us because it's going to make us work harder. And they did mention that if we have to, and we're going to submit documents to show international where we stand with the excellent standards of excellence. It's a working progress, a program. It's a working, something in working progress. It's not have to be there. And if you're not, it counts against you. No, it's you have to develop it during the year. And next year at SAM, they will tell you how you came out, and the state advisors will be given a certificate for the association, meaning the state association, to acknowledge where you stand on these standards of excellence. So it's a document that you don't have to have completed, but we're going to be working on it. We already submit a very detailed report to the State Department of Education. And this document to international sort of parallels that document. So we're going to have 2 submissions to qualify or determine what our status is as an organization. I think this is very good because you're part of an organization that's going to be held to a higher standard, especially these 47 new standards that international is doing. And I'm rounding third base. Bear with me just for a little bit longer. The International Leadership Conference in 2022 will be at Gaylord Opryland Resort. It's usually the 3rd week in January. June, June of 2022. We've been there before. I think we were there in 2016. Remember, it's Music City. It's a great place to go. Please save your pennies, nickels and dimes, whatever. Plan on doing fundraisers for it so that you can make sure the students would get some a real benefit, because they would see students from all across the country. And these are the other students that they're going to be working with in healthcare. So one of the things, before I turn it over to Amy and everybody else, one of the things that I really think is important with Hosa is the volunteer service. We do not require X number of hours. Although technically speaking, in the health science careers program that Rutgers was running, is still running, and Suzanne Deanna, that program, there was technically speaking, a 10-hour requirement of volunteer service. I don't know whether people remember that, but we don't require that here in Hosa. However, volunteer service is the way the students learn about the world of work. So I wrote a jingle, a song called the Barbara James Jingle. And I won't sing it for you, but I will give you the last couple sentences from that jingle, because to me, it stresses what it's all about. It's all about service to the the citizens of this country and the non-citizens in healthcare. And if a student doesn't volunteer and experience what they think they want, then we haven't, it's not as good as if they can experience firsthand. So the last two sentences of the jingle says, so volunteer, you're sure to find a job that is right for the best thing in Hosa's free. So Jessica will send a song on to the advisors because I think it's a great song. And I think students should be aware of it because that's what it's all about, the service to, and if, as you know, we give out certificates, and to the top 3 winners who put in the most amount of hours per year, we give bronze, silver, and gold medals as well. One year from Salem County, Jessica Coulter put in 600 hours of service. When I met her parents, I was so thrilled. I said, your daughter has done 600 hours. She is so dedicated, and she knows what she wants to do because she did it in a pediatric clinic. She wants to be a pediatrician. That was wonderful. So I'm going to end right there. Are there any questions? I know it's a long report, but I had to give you all the resources that I found out by going to the state advisors meeting. Are there any questions? And certainly if you do have questions, if you think of them later, you can always call me. Any questions, please? Any comments? Did I?
This is Kathy from MCST. How are you?
Kathy Biankowski.
Yep. Good to see everybody. I'm just curious, are you getting a feeling from nationals of whether it's actually going to take place live?
Am I getting the feeling from national if what?
Whether it's going to be virtual or live, because you mentioned Nashville, and I'm just wondering.
Oh, national. Thank you, Kathy. And by the way, Gail has retired, your cohort, your partner.
Yep. I have a new partner in crime now, Jackie Garlick, who's also on the call.
All right. Well, we're going to miss Gail.
Yeah, we will.
Gail, in fact, I'll never forget Gail. She gave me almonds when I was in Nashville in 2016. I was a little hungry. She says, here, take these. And she gave me the almonds. So I'll always remember that. That was so nice. Yeah. Yes, it will be in person. It will be in person, Nashville. Sam was in person this year in September. Everybody wore masks. We tried to follow the 6-foot distancing. It was difficult. It was hard because, we're so crowded sometimes for dinner. But and unfortunately, I did hear that 3 students who attended Washington Leadership Academy came down with the coronavirus. That was made public by International in an email. I haven't heard of it, if any of the state advisors have. I was tested after I came back because I was a little concerned, naturally, and I tested negative. I went to an emergency, in my complex. I live in the hills in Bedminster. I went there to the emergency facility, and I told him I wanted this to be checked in general. I had no symptoms, and I was tested negative. So I didn't pick up anything, and apparently I may not have been carrying the virus. See, I was concerned. Am I carrying the virus even though I had the vaccinations? Am I carrying that? So I wanted to know where I stood. And I did. I found out. It's very simple today. We all need to know our status at every minute because we're dealing with. So there were 3 students that came. I haven't heard any of the outcomes of how those students have fared, but they did develop, they did test positive for the coronavirus. Any other comments or questions? And I know you're all dealing with individual situations. I thank you for doing that. Whatever your situation is, we will support you, and you can still work around it with us. We want to get through this, and we're growing through it. We're learning more. I mean, I can't believe how much I'm learning, and I'm happy I have a great team. Thank you very much for your patience. I love you all, and thanks for accepting me as I really am, and really what I want to do for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Jean. I'll just touch on a couple points that Dr. Jean already did, but just to go in a little further detail about our attendance at ILC back in June 2021. We had record attendance from our state. Over 225 students competed at virtual ILC, and we are happy to announce that we had 46 winners from the state of New Jersey. We're obviously very proud of our students, and a lot, again, of that credit goes to you as advisors for stepping up to the plate in such unprecedented and ever-changing circumstances. So again, kudos to you and kudos to your students as well. Dr. Jean also touched on this a little bit about Washington leadership. I did send Sid's report in the chat. So please take a look there. But for our newer advisors, as Dr. G mentioned, Washington leadership overlaps with the annual SAM conference. So it is a leadership development conference over the course of 3 days, where state executive councils from across the country attend leadership workshops. They do networking, and they get to meet their fellow state representatives to discuss and advocate for Perkins funding, which obviously funds not only Hosa, but the other CTSOs as well. But you can look at Sid's notes for further details about what they learned, what they experienced, and how they're going to bring those goals, bring back those learning tools to New Jersey to better serve our students.
Jessica,
Yes.
if I may, while you're on ILC, would you mention who was honored from our chapter advisors at ILC? I'm looking right at her picture.
Oh, absolutely. So every year we get to nominate different organizations or advisors for various awards at national. And we are happy to announce that we nominated Laura Wurtzel from Mercer County Tech as our advisor of the year from the state of New Jersey, and she did win. And again, it's rightfully earned. Laura has been around probably longer than me. I've been here 4 years, and I often lean on her for things, and she knows it. So again, it is well-deserved and well-earned. So yes, congratulations again, Laura, and thank you again for all of your help and service to New Jersey.
So much. It's a team effort. It's a team sport.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yet, like I said, very well earned and deserved. So much appreciated. And of course, I will be leaning on you again for more judges in this virtual world. So
I'll get the team together.
the usual team, absolutely. So I'm looking at the agenda. Just again, briefly touching on the calendar for the year. I did send that out to everybody, I would say mid-September. So if you did not receive it, please let me know. That calendar details all important deadlines for the upcoming year. And again, given the virtual format, we hope that we can do some things in person this year, but, and we'll obviously let you know if those things change. But we are planning for an all virtual year this year so far. So please look to the calendar for all deadlines. And so that way you and your chapter are aware of what is going on in New Jersey Hosa. Just some more housekeeping items before I pass it on to Lucille and Amy. Dues payments. So as you know, we are keeping the dues the same rate this year, $18 per person. So friendly word of advice, please make sure that you are not registering students or affiliating students who have not paid, because once that students are affiliated, it is final. It cannot be changed. And if for some reason a student doesn't pay or can't pay, that money is still owed to national. So please be mindful that you are collecting the money in advance before you are affiliating students. Our deadline in New Jersey, I'll check the calendar, but it's usually December 10th to 15th. 15th. So please make sure all your students are affiliated in time, and that payment to national can go out all at once in December or January once all your students are affiliated.
Jessica, if I may, please.
Of course.
if for any reason you are aware of a hardship case, a true hardship case, that you can please send me a letter or to Jessica or I, and I will bring it before the executive committee and we will waive those dues. Now, the dues are $18. I can waive the $8 for the New Jersey. I cannot waive the $10. However, sometimes there is money available through our industry committee. There's money available through the industry partners. So if you have someone, I might be able to even get that paid through the industry people. So don't assume that they can't participate because they don't have the money. Now, there was one case at Week Lake High School where they needed uniforms. And I was able to get those uniforms the following day because there was money in a foundation that I was aware of, that, and therefore I was able to deliver those uniforms, those white coats for their white coat ceremony to that school, and they had their white coat, and now they're forming a chapter this year. Hey, that's what the money's there for. It's wonderful. I'm not talking about money from the student fund. I'm talking about money from industry. So, because the student fund has certain conditions, and, we couldn't spend money from the student fund because then, if you do it for one school, you have to do it for everybody else. I mean, how would you select it? You couldn't. But there is industry money available. So please let us know if you have a hardship, and I can usually work something out. Again, thank you. Go ahead, Jessica.
No problem. Thank you for stating that, because it slipped my mind. And so I covered the dues payments. Competitive events payments, again, we will keep those the same amount as we did last year. Those will be $25 per person. Now, in the event that we do happen to go in person, we will revert back to the $35 per person that we did prior to COVID. But in the virtual format, it will be $25 per person. And those payments will come to us here in New Jersey at our East Brunswick address, which I will put in the chat as well later on. As Dr. Dean also mentioned, our service project is Be the Match. We're in our second year of our partnership with Be the Match. If you're not aware, it is an organization that does organ transplant matching. So every 2 years, the service project is voted on at ILC by various delegates from around the country. That's what they chose in the year 2020. So this year in 2022, we will be selecting a new service project for the upcoming 2 years. I again will put our contact from Be the Match. I'll put her information in the chat. So if you have any questions or want to further collaborate or do some sort of fundraiser or service project for Be the Match, you can reach out to our contact at the national organization. Are there any questions about what I said so far? Okay, seeing none, I will move it over to Lucille to discuss bylaws.
There's some questions in the chat, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh, in the chat, okay. Let me see. Oh, thank you for mentioning that, because I had it covered looking at the agenda. Let's see, just to clarify, all the $18 per student gets mailed to National Hosas. That is correct, yes. Everything, all dues payments go to National Hosa in Texas. They will send us our portion, so you don't have to worry about that. Just send the total amount to National Hosa in Southlake, Texas. When's the latest we would find out if there's a change from virtual to in-person? As soon as possible, to be honest with you, Debbie. I mean, if it's too, we wouldn't do something like that at the last minute, obviously. But we're still kind of assessing the situation, and we have to discuss with Middlesex as well. But yes, if we don't anticipate regionals being virtual, honestly, but we're going to look to have state possibly in person. But again, if it does switch, we would let you guys know in a timely manner.
Yeah, that was going to be my main question, was about regionals. So is it safe to say that like regionals is definitely virtual?
Probably at this point.
Because this would affect, school field trip applications, those kinds of things that we have to do on our end. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And we know that that's something you guys have to deal with as well. But I think it's safe to say that regionals will both be virtual, and we'll try to shoot for having state in person. But again, we'll give due notice if that's possible. Okay, Kathy, new advisor, do competitors have to wear the Hosa emblem uniform or business attire? If it's in person, they can wear either the official uniform or the New Jersey business attire. We have our own dress code, very similar to national. It's basically the national organization's dress code for general sessions. Since we don't have multiple sessions for our conferences, we just abide by that either Hosa official uniform or the Hosa business attire in place. But if it's virtual, they're not on camera, unless they're on camera for any event, then they would have to. But if they're not required to be in uniform or business attire. Oh, and thank you, Shawnee. She put the New Jersey dress code in the chat, so you can access that as well. Any other questions? I'm just looking. Oh, I see. Just double checking everything. Where's international again? International ILC is planning on being in Nashville, Tennessee. That is the plan for 2022. Is there anything else? Did I miss anything? I'm just going through the chat, but feel free to shout out if I need to answer any questions. Okay, then Lucille, you can take it away with bylaws and Hosa required forms whenever you're ready.
There's one thing in the chat regarding busing issues. If you're in a public school, that could be a problem with more than one location, because one of the changes that public schools are making is they're cutting back on field trips. So if we do have in person, we would have to notify the advisors ASAP. Okay. But right now, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is our grantee, Middlesex County, is requiring all virtual meetings. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. A couple of things before I start with the bylaws. Dr. Jean mentioned hardship cases. Our advisory committee meets in November next month, and that's the committee that has industry, I guess you'd say, specialist personnel that serves, and they are all health related. So if you think that you have any hardship cases, please send something to Dr. Jean between now and mid-November. Okay, so at least we can have an idea of what we want to share with the advisory committee for their support. Okay. All right, the bylaws revision were made last year. The most current updated document is on the New Jersey Hosa website. As advisor, would you please make sure that you share that information with all of your chapter members and ask them to review it. There are 3 required forms that all of your student members must complete. The first one is the code of conduct, which is on the website. And you need to have an electronic copy of each one of your students who plan to participate. The second document is the medical release form. Just in case we do go in person, we would have that form completed for any student that participates. And then the last one is a photo release. That's very important. And I know from working with teenagers, sometimes you have a senior who is 18 and they feel they don't have to do it, but they're still a high school student. If they don't have a diploma, they still need to complete those forms. And they need to be available to you either electronically or, since I'm over 65, hard copy. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Just to point out that, again, Lucille is chairman of the board of the industry committee, and this is a big step, advisory committee, yes. But this is a big step forward because she just mentioned the support for these hardship cases, and that could extend to a uniform. You know, sometimes a student would feel embarrassed because they don't have the proper clothes to come. We don't want that. We want to give
Right.
them support, and so that's very important. We've yet up to this point, we may have had one, but it hasn't really been it hasn't happened. So I'm really kind of surprised. I'm kind of glad. Maybe we don't have
Yeah.
the problem, but I'm sure at some point it's going to be a problem for somebody. Thank you.
One of the things that I know that some of the advisors are doing is they have a inventory of the blazers, and that
Yeah.
inventory is cleaned and, available
Right.
for students. So if you're brand new, that's a possible solution. Thank you. I don't see anything else in there.
Thanks, Lucille.
And the photo release is a separate form. I'm reading in the chat. Okay.
Shawnee, I believe you wanted to mention something about FLC real quick before we moved on to Amy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say call out from Sid's report. So just letting everyone know, there will be a social media countdown on our Instagram and Facebook pages. So at New Jersey Hosa or New Jersey Hosa or at NJ Hosa. And so on that page, there will be different polls or activities that the students can engage in. And so we highly recommend you encouraging your students to participate in that, as there might be even opportunities for prizes. And it's also just a fun way for us to get feedback while interacting with our students. So definitely keep an eye out for that and let your students know. And then additionally, just wanted to let you know that the theme that the students had chosen as their New Jersey specific theme for their year and how they want to drive their programming is Forge Your Future. So just so you know that will be coming up. That's all.
Thanks, Shawnee. Then Amy, the floor is yours. Take it away to talk about competitive events.
Well, good afternoon, and I want to thank everybody who's on the front line of teaching. I can't imagine what you're going through. I really bless you all, and your students are blessed to have you, and I'm glad I'm retired. Anyhow, I was a chapter advisor for almost 25 years and learned tremendous amounts. Things change all the time. We are here to help you. I want you to realize that. And again, you can feel free to reach out to me. My email address is mrsberkmeyer@yahoo.com. And Jessica, if you could just put that in the chat, just to spell my name properly. The other thing that I'm really willing to do is to meet with you. If you are a new advisor, if your school will allow visitors, then I could come in and we could have a face-to-face, because it is a daunting task. And one of the things that I lived by and still do is lead by example. So you're learning to be an advisor, and then your students are going to learn from you. One other thing before I go into competitive events in great detail is just to remind people that Hosa is not just competitive events. There's so many opportunities. The Barbara James service, volunteering. Again, I was a candy striper in a hospital when I was 15 years old, and that, because I wanted to be a nurse, and that proved to me, to be the right thing. There's also scholarship opportunities at the state level, at the national level, and again, service. Service as a chapter officer, then leading up to possibly a state officer, and then possibly a national officer. So there's many, many things to do. Now, going to competitive events, the best resource truly is the hosa.org website. It will lead you to success. Also, you want to encourage your students to look at it. The difference is that we do things so differently in the state of New Jersey only because of availability. We do not do all of the events. And I believe that one of the things that was sent out to the advisors was the list of events that we do at the state, regional level, and then also we do additional things at the state level. And one of the things that's very challenging is to help your students to select events that they're interested in. However, that's not enough. There needs to be the resources, the equipment, and the special, the person who's qualified to teach that. And New Jersey Host has changed dramatically since I joined in 1992 in that traditional high schools, because it used to be just vocational, and now CTE, they're called CTE schools. But, to be in a traditional high school is wonderful to have a Hosa chapter. And we're, we welcome you in it. It's great. But to lead your students to success, that's why reading the event guidelines from the first page to the last page for you and your students is really, really very important. As an example, I had sent out a document. If your student wants to go into nursing, and I use nursing because, again, that's my specialty, and you're in a high school, whether it's CTE or a traditional high school, but you don't have a nurse aid program, or you don't have a hospital bed, wheelchairs, blood pressure cuffs, you want to guide your student to select something different, because how are they going to learn this? Now, at the at the regional level this year, since it's virtual, it's test only. But if it's in person, then you have to have the skills and the equipment. Another thing that's really critical about reading the event guidelines is every single event guideline on either page 2 or 3, there's a box with equipment that is required for each student to bring to the competitive event. And it could be a pencil. They don't provide pencils for tests. It could be your speech, if you're doing prepared speaking, obviously. But for something, again, dental science, you have to bring certain equipment. Home health aid, you have to bring certain equipment. The biggest list is for CPR, first aid, and EMT. I mean, it is, EMTs come as a team. They have what's called a jump bag with all the equipment in it. Well, your team, if you have that, has to bring that equipment with them to the conference, whether it's regional, state, or national. And you can't borrow from the site. So that's a critical thing for you and your students. And again, we're not trying to be downers, we're realists, because we want your students to be successful. And then there's the textbook issue. Each one of the event guidelines has the textbooks that they recommend. You may have a different EMT textbook. You may have a different medical terminology textbook, but they have to have access to this. And again, in today's world, there's the online textbooks, but again, do you have to pay for them? Does the school have that? So there's a lot to consider. And again, we want your students to be successful. And again, going back to reaching out to me, if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me. Again, we on the team want to see that your students are successful. Now, going on to event guidelines, it's very critical to know that National Hosa updates these every single year. They make changes. Sometimes they're minor, sometimes there's none, and they just, put a new date on it. It's usually September 1st of that current year. But throughout the entire school year, they can make changes. So for a student to arrive at a conference, say in March, and they didn't read the guideline changed something, they're still going to be held responsible for that. And it may cost them points. So I would urge you and your students to check the national website frequently and just go to the link of competitive events. They usually put a date on it if there's any changes, and then you scroll down and you look at the particular events. They might change the textbook, they might change steps in an event, but it is critical that your students are, aware of that. Let's see what else. One of the big changes this year for those who want their students to do job seeking or interviewing skills, and I'll get to that difference in a moment, is because the world has changed, they're really no longer going to, this started last year, no job application has to be filled out, because again, it used to be pen and paper, but now in today's world, I'm sure everybody's doing it online, but there's no job application to be filled out. But very, very, very specific. The student is to pick a job that they're interested in and have training for. They have learned it. Last year, I judged job seeking at both levels. And there were students in high school that were applying to be a physician. Well, that's not reality. So you have to have training in that, or an interest in it for maybe you've done some volunteering. Another one was applying to be a physical therapist. Now, there is sports medicine involved as a competitive event. So if a student was working with a sports athlete at school, that could be, considered an internship type thing. They could apply then. But just please, help your students to understand that they have to read carefully, and for their benefit to move forward, they need to, follow the guidelines. For the new advisors, there are 4 competitive events that are for level 2 students. A level 2 student is defined as someone who has an IEP. That is, you can look that up in, what am I looking at? Okay, it's in one of the appendices, I believe. Oh, it's Appendix H. When you go to the competitive event site and you want to click on appendices, read through them all carefully. They are wonderful guidelines for you. But, having worked again in a school that had students in both, regular ed, I hate to say that, or special needs ed, a 504 does not qualify the student to be in a level 2 event. However, if you have someone who has an IEP, they can pick any event. But in order to do interviewing skills, speaking skills, life support skills, and personal care, those are the 4 events that require an IEP. There's a page at the last page of these events, the last 2 pages of those 4 events have the forms that have to be filled out by the student, by the school, and following the required signatures. The first one is for the regional conference level, and then the second one would be filled out by the state advisor, and you have to meet that qualification. Having said that, I had a student who was a level 2 student who's now a pharmacist. And he was very, very active in Hosa. And actually, when he and his brother went to the Massachusetts School of Pharmacy, they started a Hosa chapter there. And to see that this gentleman has a PharmD is just tears in my eyes. Anyway,
Hey. There you go.
I digress. So again, we are here to help you. Again, going back to Hosa, New Jersey Hosa does not offer everything. So please be very careful with what you allow your students to pursue. And again, if you have questions, you send them to us. What else? One of the things, again, about the dress code, as a chapter advisor, I worked in a district that had a lot of issues with people with financial issues. So we had a closet full of uniforms that the students could borrow. Now, sometimes this skeeves people out, but you can go to Salvation Army, you can go to Goodwill, you can look for the navy blue blazer, you can look for, pants. And I know Shawnee posted the New Jersey dress code. And for the new advisors at national conference at ILC, you're there for multiple days. So let's say on Wednesday, your student competes in job seeking skills. They can wear a gray outfit. They can wear something that's brown. And they changed this 2 years ago, but that's not the point. But at the award ceremony, that's when they have to be dressed in either navy blue top and bottom or black top and bottom with white shirt only. You don't have to have the Hosa emblem on the blue unless they're an officer, your chapter officer or a state officer. And over the years, we collected these things. Again, as Lucille said, I believe it was Lucille, you get them dry cleaned, you take care of them, and then you loan it out. They sign it out, they return it at the end of the year, and that can be very, very, very helpful. But again, there's bonus dress, points for proper dress. And at the New Jersey level, if someone is at a conference and they're not dressed properly, number one, they won't get the 5 bonus points. But number two, they win a medal, that's fine, but they would not be allowed on the stage to get their medal. Now, having said that, another thing, and I know this is a lot of information, is if they're competing in a health professions event, dental, nursing, medical assisting, emergency clinical care, those types of preparedness, they can wear their scrubs at a regional or a state conference. That's fine. They do not have to change their clothes to go on stage. But at the national level, again, they might have nursing assisting, medical assisting, et cetera. On Thursday, they're in their scrubs, but on Friday and Saturday night at these award ceremonies and other ceremonies, the opening, the award ceremony, and then there's the recognition ceremony at the national level, then that they must be dressed in official Hosa attire, which is navy blue or black. If you have some questions, don't hesitate to send them to me right now. I'm just going over things. One of the things that was brought up briefly is, even though it's virtual, we need you to volunteer as judges. And when you attend a conference in person, it really is, it's an expectation. Again, talking about volunteers, Hosa runs on volunteers. And, we do invite industry people in. We invite, like, I could invite some of my nursing friends in to, do a in-person. I've done that in the past. But we need you to, when possible, especially virtually, jump in and say, okay, I can do this. However, if you have a student that's competing in that event, then you can't judge it, obviously. But the team will be reaching out to you for the virtual conferences. If and when, fingers crossed, obviously, we go to Nashville and you go with your students, New Jersey Hosa is expected to manage to run an event. And we would look for people. You can't run an event if you don't have the volunteers. You also might be asked, again, I'll use nursing as an example. When I went with my students to multiple national conferences, which is an amazing experience, they would say, I judge nursing assisting, I judge job seeking skills, or I proctored tests because national Hosa. So the same thing here in New Jersey. So we really do need you to participate. And then going back to lead by example, it also shows your students your commitment. All right, team, am I missing anything? Because I know I've been rambling.
Just, Amy, that we will give the OSHA update with Dr. Breen, even though it's a competitive event.
Yeah.
She'll handle that.
Okay. But again, I guess I'll finalize things by saying that, again, lead by example. The National Hosa website is the textbook of how you can run your chapter. And please, utilize that to the best of your ability, and have your students as well, particularly your chapter leaders, And then Washington Leadership Conference. Dr. Jing, did they still have chapter officers there this year, or is it just state that you're aware of? Originally, it started out as state officers only, and I guess the last time I was at WLA, that you could bring your chapter officers. It is an amazing experience.
Yeah, well, I think it's centered mostly on state officers. There may have been some chapter officers from individual, I don't know about that. We have had some in the past, but basically it's for state officers.
Yeah,
but I just wanted to point out, so they did have, I believe, chapter officers there, and so they do separate trainings since they're more geared towards the chapter level, but I believe that it did happen this year.
Yeah, it was on the agenda for it. I just don't think anybody from New Jersey was there this year from local chapters.
Okay, good.
That's Nicole speaking, correct?
Yes, I'm here.
I know, I can tell by the voice.
But, I would encourage you, now to start thinking about that for next year and looking into it, because the issue is with Washington Leadership Academy is things are posted in late June, early July. And then you've got, again, with the 6-week thing with getting everything board approved. And this is in usually the third weekend of September. When they go back to normal, it is such an amazing opportunity. You tour Washington, D.C. I've been to the NIH. I've been to Walter Reed and the guest speakers that they bring in. There's also training for advisors. So I strongly, encourage you to look into that as an option. Yes, that's basically it for me.
Amy,
Yes,
I would just like to add to your report that the Roxbury High School did reach out to us this year. They have physicians, they have an academy for sports medicine.
Good, okay.
Right, Jessica? It is Roxbury, correct? They're a new chapter.
Yes, I believe it's a subset of Morris County Tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's another resource for you. I have yet to make a visit there, but I plan to make a visit there because sports medicine is so big today. And finally, we have someone with an academy, which is, going to be a resource for the rest of us, for some of your students who are interested in sports medicine. So you should be able to reach out to that new chapter. And that's something that we're going to have to post online because it's a special area.
So again, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll help you in any way I can. And again, if your school does allow visitors, I would be willing to, come and visit in person. So just let me know. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy. Before I pass it along to Dr. Breen, I just want to touch on tallow a little bit. We have not made a final decision about whether we'll use tallow this year. We have used it in the past for our state conferences and for our state officer applications. So we may be using it this year. I'm, again, not final, but again, we've used it in the past. And also it's great practice because students who compete at ILC will have to upload those materials to tallow anyway. So it gives the students a chance to get familiar with the system and know where they need to upload their materials because it's a requirement for most of the events at ILC. So we haven't made a final decision yet, but most likely we will, and we will notify you. And again, tallow is also used for national scholarships as well. And that deadline every year is March 15th. So for your seniors who are graduating, tallow is especially a great resource for that. So they can apply they can apply for national Hosa scholarships. I believe that is it on the competitive events side, aside from OSHA. So Dr. Breen can take it away from there.
Yes, may I introduce this though? Dr. Breen, you're there. You're ready to go, right?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, so let me just bring the group up to date. We established over the last 2 years an OSHA competitive event, state only, here in New Jersey. That event was what triggered international to do an OSHA event which they placed in the Academic Testing Center at OSHA. I mean, at ILC. You know, we're very proud here because before that, there was no OSHA testing at the international level. And the fact that any student at the ILC could go into the Academic Testing Center there and test out for OSHA is wonderful. So recently this year, though, I taught with Sylvia Bryson at Central High School in Newark, their dental assisting program. We did both of us together in May and June, online. We did a level 2 OSHA program. It was something that the two of us put together. You know, we just were working at the same time we were teaching, trying to figure out the best way to make this curriculum for this level student. Thank you, Sylvia, for working with me. God bless her. She sent me a second monitor. So here I was working with 2 monitors for the first time in my life. You know, so the benefits to working with each individual school are just wonderful. So as a result, I thought to myself, well, we don't have a level 2 curriculum for the state of New Jersey. So then I called up Dr. Breen and I said, guess what? I started doing this teaching. Can you help us out here? Because Dr. Breen was the one that created the PowerPoint for the OSHA curriculum. She helped with the student study guide, both of which PowerPoint student study guide are on the New Jersey website. So that was great. And we've added not only to the PowerPoint and to the student study guide, Shawnee came up with a beautiful wallet card. If you can put that in the chart, Shawnee, it would be helpful. So I want Dr. Breen now to introduce what she's going to be doing this year as far as revising the curriculum that we have for the level 2 student. Thank you. Dr. Breen.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just a very short report. A written report was submitted for the meeting, and it's basically just an update which indicates pretty much what Dr. Jean already introduced. We're taking and revising and adding to the traditional program for OSHA, and we have already developed an entire draft PowerPoint presentation. I submitted it to Dr. Jean. He's in the process of reviewing the PowerPoint. We've added a lot more illustrations. We've broken up points into smaller areas, so the information is easier to understand in order to facilitate learning. And once that has been approved, then we'll also be revising the OSHA tests that the students take, so the test is compatible with the new OSHA level 2 program. We had a discussion in which we indicated we need to determine exactly what the schools are doing within New Jersey with regard to first aid and CPR. We're under the impression that all the students have CPR, but I believe that Jessica is going to be serving the schools just to try to determine who offers first aid as well. And then based upon the information that we obtain, we may also add some information to the workplace safety PowerPoint to include some of the information on Stop the Bleed and then the new initiative in order to enhance the emergency treatment. And that's basically it. Any questions? Okay.
Carolyn,
yes.
Thank you, because you summarized it. I would have taken 20 minutes. You know, that was really good. I mean, yeah, that was very brief and to the point.
Okay, thank you.
Next is the...
Dr. Jean, you can quickly touch on industry partners, and then we can allow a few minutes for questions since we're almost at 1:30.
So,
Before you start, Dr. Jean, I just put an announcement in the chat. Someone sent me this on my cell phone, and I think the advisors from Monmouth, Mercer, and Middlesex and Ocean might be interested if they have high school seniors who are interested in a health career. and
Oh,
looking
that's-
for a job.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wow, that's great. I see it. I love the chat. And I never could multitask, but when the Zoom came along and you could chat, I can do it. I can't believe I can go back and forth. It's amazing. Okay, thank you for sharing that information. I did touch on all the industry partners, and certainly one of our premier partners is Right Response, the people that sell service the
So this
yeah,
is
sell the
York.
emergency.
Oh, damn, look at that traffic. I
yeah.
hate York.
Okay.
Go straight.
Are we getting, okay, that, we're done with that. Our industry partner, Right Response, always offers a 50% deal. If you sell first aid kits, you get 50%. So it's a great fundraiser, and it fits right in with our safety awareness program. And so it's part of our curriculum. And they're our go-to recognized, approved sponsor. They're very good to work with. Right Response, safety kits. Please sell those safety kits, make some money, go to the International Leadership Conference in 2022. Thank you. That's it. Jessica?
Okay, no, sorry, I was posting information in the chat about Right Response. I'm just taking
Good.
care
Oh,
of
good,
that.
good, good.
They sent some information, so I'm just sending that to everyone. So they have it, and Right Response gives 50% of what you raise back to your chapter. So it is definitely a great resource that you can use as you're trying to raise money for especially ILC. So we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any questions or comments that you may have?
I could make a comment here. I have made 2 site visits already this year. One in Denville at the Morris County School, and Ocean County, the second visit. So I am available. If you would like to have a visit from me, please indicate in the chat or send an email to Jessica. Don't put it in the chat. That when you're available, the best time in your schedule that I could visit you to just, I think it's important that the state be connected with the local chapter. So I'm willing to make these site visits this year. And if you want a site visit, please indicate the best time so that I can start schedule of visits. We want to, I think that's the best thing to do. If, they allow us to come in there. When I went to Denver and I went to Ocean, I had to wear a mask, which was okay, no problem. So I put my mask on, and then it was not an issue. And I spoke to people of the one class. It was a new chapter in Morris, and they're just starting out. It was a lot of fun for me, and the students got to see somebody from the state organization. I think that helps you, the chapter advisors, to make somebody real. I'm a real person. I come there. I think they like it. So I am available for those site visits. Please let Jessica know your best time. That's all I have to say. I want to thank everybody for being so attentive. There was a lot of information here today, but we're complicated. We're complex. We're moving forward. We're going to be a gold level, I hope, organization, and this is what it requires.
I'm just looking at the chat. Miriam, we can certainly have a meeting or have a separate phone call with any questions for new advisors.
Okay.
But, just let me know, like we can always touch base and set up a time to talk, or you can always email me with any questions. So
the other thing, if I could just interject this, is that Fall Leadership Conference might be a good time that we could, between the team, we could, focus a little bit more, particularly on the new advisors.
Right.
All right, everyone. Well, again, if you have any other questions or comments, again, we're always available by phone or email. But thank you for attending and taking a little time out on your Saturday. Have a great rest of your day, and we will be in touch soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.